What you are about to hear is not comfort, it is correction. A new frame, a new standard, a new way of approaching life that separates those who grind endlessly in circles from those who rise with precision and speed. For too long, you've been told that hard work is the secret, that the more hours you throw at your problems, the more success you will accumulate, that exhaustion equals progress. But let me tell you a truth most men never discover until they've wasted decades. Hard work alone is not enough. In fact, hard work without intelligence can chain you to mediocrity, because effort does not guarantee advancement, sweat does not guarantee success. You can run faster than anyone else and still be sprinting in the wrong direction. You can outwork the entire room and still be building someone else's dream, not your own. Listen to me closely. Life does not reward the man who labors endlessly. It rewards the man who applies leverage, the man who multiplies results by using his mind, not just his muscles, the man who builds systems, who finds efficiencies, who positions himself where effort produces exponential return. That is the law of smart work. So let me ask you, if you had to choose, would you rather be the man digging with his bare hands until his skin bleeds, or the man who invented the shovel? Would you rather be the worker sweating in the factory, or the builder who designed the machine that multiplied labor 1,000-fold? History has already answered the question. Henry Ford did not become a titan by working harder than the other men in the steel mills. He worked smart. He created the assembly line, one decision that turned months of labor into hours, one system that revolutionized transportation forever. He didn't out-sweat his competitors, he out-thought them. Thomas Edison was not the hardest worker in America, but he may have been the smartest. He didn't just experiment blindly, he created laboratories, systems, structures that allowed dozens of men to work simultaneously on his vision. His genius was not only invention, it was orchestration. He multiplied his mind through many. Andrew Carnegie began as a poor boy working endless shifts in a telegraph office. He could have stayed there working harder and harder, hoping for scraps, but he didn't. He worked smart. He learned skills others ignored. He memorized routes, mastered Morse code, anticipated problems before his superiors even asked. And soon, he wasn't just another worker, he became indispensable. That shift from hard work to smart work was the foundation of one of the greatest fortunes in history. Do you see the pattern? The world does not celebrate the man who suffers the longest. It celebrates the man who engineers a path to results, with less resistance, less waste, less blind effort. So why not you? Why not now? Why not today decide that you will stop glorifying exhaustion and start glorifying execution, that you will measure yourself not by hours worked, but by value created, that you will stop wearing struggle as a badge of honor and instead wear efficiency, clarity, and leverage as your new standard. Because let's be honest, you've been lied to. You were told that staying late at the office proves your worth, that grinding while everyone sleeps guarantees your victory, that if you just keep your head down and keep pushing, one day someone will notice and reward you. But the truth, no one rewards invisible effort. No one promotes silent suffering. No one crowns the man who worked the hardest, but never lifted his head to strategize. Look around. How many men do you know who work themselves into the ground year after year, but never rise? They sacrifice time, family, health, even spirit, and yet they remain stuck. Why? Because they confused activity with achievement. They worked hard but not smart, and you must understand this. The marketplace pays for value, not sweat. It rewards solutions, not exhaustion. It measures output, not effort. So here is the shift. Stop asking, how long can I work? And start asking, how can I make this easier, faster, more effective? Stop saying I'll just grind harder, and start asking, what system can I build so the grind works without me? Stop wearing fatigue like a trophy, and start wearing results like armor. Because smart work multiplies, smart work liberates, smart work builds empires. From this moment forward, you are no longer a laborer of hours, you are a builder of leverage, and that begins not with more sweat, but with a new mind, a mind that seeks shortcuts without shame, a mind that demands efficiency, a mind that understands one law above all others. Working smart will always beat working hard. Say it aloud: I no longer worship hard work for its own sake. I work with precision, I work with leverage, I work smart. Because once you believe that, you are no longer a cog in someone else's machine. You become the architect, the designer, the one who decides how the pieces move. And that, my friend, is how you begin to bend life in your favor. This is the first shift. And once you accept it, everything else, purpose, focus, systems, influence, wealth, will fall into place. So let me ask you one more time. Are you ready to stop working hard and start working smart? What separates the exhausted man from the effective man is not willpower, it is leverage. Leverage is the silent force that multiplies effort, bends time, and transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Without it, you can work yourself to the bone and stay exactly where you are. With it, 1 hour of your life can equal 100 hours of another man. Most men never learn this law. They glorify sweat. They boast about how late they stay, how little they sleep, how much they hustle. But if effort alone was the secret, construction workers would be billionaires. If long hours alone built empires, every exhausted man in the factory would own the factory. They don't, because they lack leverage. So what is leverage? It is the ability to achieve more with less, to multiply output without multiplying effort, to replace endless repetition with systems, with strategy, with intelligence. Let me give you the proof. John D. Rockefeller did not rise to dominate the oil industry by working harder than the men sweating in the fields. He worked smarter. He studied supply chains, distribution, efficiency. He didn't just drill for oil. He built pipelines, he cut costs, he negotiated smarter deals. For every ounce of effort his competitors wasted on manual labor, he extracted 10 ounces of value through strategy. That is leverage. Andrew Carnegie did not become the steel king by swinging the hammer longer than his workers. He designed processes that reduced waste, increased productivity, and lowered costs. While other men were counting the hours, Carnegie was counting the multipliers. He wasn't laboring, he was leveraging. Even Thomas Edison, often called the hardest worker of his time, wasn't succeeding because of raw effort. He succeeded because he learned to harness other men's effort. His laboratories became leverage factories, dozens of inventors, technicians, and assistants, all working under his vision. His genius was not in doing everything himself. It was in creating an environment where his ideas multiplied without his constant touch. And Henry Ford, his brilliance was not the car, it was the process. The assembly line turned hours into minutes, chaos into order, and limited effort into infinite output. One system built once, multiplied forever. That is the difference between working hard and working smart. So let me ask you, where in your life are you still relying on raw effort when you could be using leverage? Are you repeating tasks that could be automated? Are you solving the same problems again and again instead of building systems that solve them once and for all? Are you using your own limited energy when you could be multiplying through tools, through people, through strategy? This is where most men fail. They confuse pride in effort with pride in results. They say, I work hard, as if that alone justifies their lack of progress. But results don't care about your hours. Results only care about leverage. Understand this. The world does not reward the mule who pulls the cart the longest. It rewards the man who builds the wheel. So here is your shift. From today, you stop asking, how much can I do? And you start asking, what system can I create that will keep producing without me? You stop saying, I'll just work harder, and you start saying, who or what can I use to multiply my impact? You stop worshipping struggle and you start worshipping leverage. This is not laziness, this is intelligence. This is how the elite separate themselves from the exhausted masses, because the truth is this: one man with leverage will always outrun 1,000 men with sweat. One system will always outlast 1,000 hours. One smart move will always eclipse a lifetime of blind hustle. Do not misunderstand me. Work is still required, but it must be directed work, engineered work, work that builds structures, systems, assets that continue producing after your hands leave them. Look at the wealthiest men alive today. They do not trade hours for dollars. They build platforms, they build networks, they build machines that run while they sleep. That is smart work. That is leverage. So how do you begin? First, Identify every repetitive task in your life and ask, can this be automated, delegated, or eliminated? If the answer is yes, build the system now. Second, ask, am I the only one who can do this, or can I find someone better, faster, more focused? If someone else can, then your job is not to do it, it is to direct it. Third, stop measuring yourself by effort and start measuring yourself by multiplication. If your actions don't create ripple effects beyond your effort, you are still stuck in the trap of hard work, because here is the final law. The man who builds leverage will always rule the man who only labors. The one who designs the system will always own the one trapped inside of it. So repeat this now. I stop trading effort for scraps. I create systems. I build leverage. I multiply my results. I work smart, not hard. Because once that belief is installed, you will no longer compete with the tired mass. You will step into a new realm, the realm of the builders, the architects, the strategists, and from that place your life is no longer measured in hours, it is measured in impact. This is the law of leverage, and once you obey it, you will never again confuse sweat with success. Working smart begins with one skill above all others, the ability to decide with clarity and act with precision. Because the truth is this, most men don't fail from lack of effort. They fail from divided effort. They scatter their energy across too many tasks, too many projects, too many paths. They confuse motion with momentum. They run fast but without direction. Working hard in 10 directions leaves you exhausted and nowhere. Working smart in one direction leaves you powerful and unstoppable. Let me tell you something most men never grasp. Indecision is the greatest thief of progress. It keeps you stuck in preparation, stuck in hesitation, stuck in endless thinking that produces no results. And every day you delay, your energy leaks, your focus crumbles, your opportunities vanish. Smart work requires that you decide quickly and change your mind slowly, that you cut off distraction, that you commit to one path with such certainty that your actions align, your subconscious aligns, and your environment bends around that choice. Look at the great builders of history. Henry Ford was not celebrated because he tried 100 businesses at once. He was celebrated because he locked onto one vision, making cars affordable for the common man. His decisiveness burned away distraction, and that clarity turned into an empire. Abraham Lincoln did not lead a divided nation by chasing every opinion, every voice, every path of least resistance. He decided, he declared, he drew a line in the sand so deep that even a civil war could not shake it loose. That is the power of finality and decision. Andrew Carnegie did not dabble in dozens of industries. He mastered one, steel. His definiteness of purpose turned focus into fortune. His strategy was not to try everything, it was to concentrate everything. And Thomas Edison, 10,000 failures could not move him, because his decision was already made. He was not experimenting to see if the light bulb could exist. He had already decided it would. His strategy was simple: find the path until it appears. His decision gave him endurance. Do you see it? Decision multiplies effort. Decision is leverage. Without it, you drift. With it, you dominate. So let me ask you, how many decisions are still open in your life? How many half-started goals, half-finished projects, half-committed plans are stealing your energy? Every unfinished decision is a leak in your power. Every maybe is a thief of your momentum. Working hard in indecision only deepens the hole. Working smart means cutting off the noise, choosing once, moving with finality. Here is your law: strategy beats stamina. 10 hours of scattered action are weaker than 1 hour of directed precision. The man who chooses wisely and commits fully will outrun the man who works blindly forever. So how do you practice this? First, define your purpose. Without a target, your decisions will drift. Write one sentence that defines what you are here to build. That becomes your compass. Second, eliminate options. A weak man clings to plan B. A strong man burns the bridge. Smart work requires focus, not fallback. Third, rehearse decisiveness in small things. Train your mind to act quickly. What to eat, when to wake, what to start. Every small decisive act strengthens your ability to make larger ones. Fourth, Review your decisions only against your purpose, not against fear, not against doubt, not against outside opinion. If it aligns with your mission, it is final. If it does not, it is eliminated. This is what separates the strategist from the struggler. The struggler says, "I'll wait and see." The strategist says, "I decide, and I will make it work." And when you carry that posture, something powerful happens. Your words gain weight. Your presence sharpens. People trust you because you radiate certainty. Opportunities come to you because the world bends toward decisiveness. So let me tell you plainly, stop delaying, stop overthinking, stop waiting for proof. Decide who you are, decide what you will build, decide where you are going, and then walk with the authority of a man who no longer negotiates with doubt. Say it now: I decide quickly, I act with precision, I no longer scatter my energy, I no longer wait for permission, I move with clarity, I move with certainty, I work smart by choosing with power. Because once you live this law, you will no longer waste years in hesitation, you will no longer confuse busyness with building, you will no longer sacrifice your energy to indecision. This is the third shift, strategy through decision, and once it becomes your standard, hard work becomes amplified, leveraged, multiplied, because every ounce of effort is now directed like a spear, not spilled like water. So the question is not whether you can work hard, the question is, can you decide? Because once you do, the path will bend in your favor. Hard work drains you, systems sustain you. This is the fourth shift, the one that separates men who grind endlessly from men who build endlessly. Because no matter how disciplined you are, no matter how strong your willpower, you cannot outwork the limits of your time and energy, but you can outsystem them. Understand this: the man who relies only on his effort will always be exhausted. The man who builds systems that carry his effort forward will always expand. That is the law. Look around at history. The men we call builders, innovators, pioneers. What did they truly build? Not just products, not just businesses. They built systems. Henry Ford's real invention was not the automobile. Others had already made cars. His true genius was the assembly line, a system that turned scattered labor into ordered flow, a system that multiplied output far beyond what any single worker could produce. He didn't just work hard, he engineered work itself. That is smart. Andrew Carnegie didn't just make steel, he created an entire structure of supply, transportation, and distribution that fed itself. Trains, factories, managers, investments, all aligned like gears in a machine. His wealth was not in the steel alone, but in the system that never stopped producing it. John D. Rockefeller didn't just sell oil, he built pipelines, refineries, and distribution networks that delivered oil on autopilot while his competitors hauled barrels by hand. One man sweated, Rockefeller scaled, and history does not remember the man who sweated hardest. It remembers the man who scaled smartest. Do you see the truth? The wealthiest, most powerful men in history didn't just build products, they built systems. So what is a system? A system is work designed once, that keeps working for you forever. It is the process that runs without you, the habit that repeats without effort, the structure that multiplies your results even when you rest. Most men ignore this. They repeat the same task again and again like machines, never stopping to ask, how can I make the machine work for me? They pride themselves on endurance while the smart man is building engines, and that is why they remain trapped, because they confuse motion with multiplication. So let me ask you, where are you repeating what could be automated? Where are you working manually when you could be building a machine? Where are you burning energy that a system could recycle for you? Working hard means carrying water up the hill every day. Working smart means building a pipeline once, so the water flows forever. This law applies everywhere. In your business, do you have systems for leads, for sales, for delivery, or do you start from zero every time? In your habits, do you have systems that make discipline automatic? Your food prepared, your environment shaped, your schedule locked? Or do you fight the same battle of willpower every day? In your mind, do you have systems of thought, affirmations and auto-suggestions that reinforce power daily? Or do you wake up empty and hope motivation shows up? Because here's the truth. Without systems you are a slave to your own energy. With systems you are free. Let me give you practical clarity. A system replaces memory with structure. You don't try to remember, the process remembers for you. A system replaces motivation with automation. You don't wait to feel ready. The process begins whether you feel like it or not. A system replaces repetition with leverage. You don't rebuild daily. The foundation carries you forward. This is why the weak burn out and the strong expand. The weak repeat, the strong systemize. Say it now: I build systems that work for me. I do the work once, and the system multiplies it forever. My energy is multiplied. My discipline is automated. My results are inevitable. Because once you adopt this identity, you will never again be trapped in the cycle of starting over. You will never again waste energy fighting the same battle day after day. You will design victory into your environment, into your habits, into your work. Think about it. Why do armies win war? Not because every soldier works the hardest, but because the system of command, strategy and supply keeps moving regardless of any single man's fatigue. That is power. Why do empires endure? Not because kings live forever, but because the systems of governance, trade and culture perpetuate beyond the individual. That is scale. Why do businesses grow? Not because one man pushes harder, but because the systems of marketing, sales and delivery multiply without him. That is leverage. You must treat your life the same way. Your health must have systems. Your focus must have systems. Your work must have systems. Because if you rely only on raw willpower, you will break. But if you build systems, you become unbreakable. This is the fourth shift. Don't just work, systemize. Don't just grind, engineer. Don't just fight the same battle. Win it once by building the process that wins it forever. Say it again: I am not a worker, I am a builder of systems. My systems carry me further than my strength ever could. My life is engineered for result. From this day forward, stop asking, how can I push harder? And start asking, what system can I build so I never have to push again? Because the man who works hard may achieve once, but the man who builds systems achieves forever. If working smart has a weapon, its sharpest edge is focus. Because no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how many tools you use, no matter how many systems you build, if your attention is divided, your results are diluted. Focus is the multiplier. It is the law that turns scattered effort into unstoppable force. Understand this: hard work without focus is chaos, endless motion, no momentum. Smart work begins with the ruthless narrowing of your aim. Look at the men who shaped history. Not one of them succeeded by chasing everything. They locked onto one mission and bent their entire lives around it. Andrew Carnegie had one obsession: steel. He was not dabbling in shipping, in farming, in politics, in distraction. He was building the backbone of America's industry, and every ounce of his time, his resources, his energy bent toward that singular aim. Henry Ford was not chasing 10 ventures at once. He was focused on making the automobile accessible to the common man. He was not seduced by every shiny opportunity. He had one vision, and he pursued it until the world bent around it. Thomas Edison did not scatter his genius across every possibility. He narrowed it into invention, into systems of experimentation, into a laboratory designed for focused output. His thousands of failures were not distractions. They were focused iterations toward one inevitable outcome. And Abraham Lincoln, do you think he could have led a nation through its darkest hour if his mind was divided, if he chased popularity, if he scattered his energy? No, he focused his entire being on a single principle: the preservation of the Union and the emancipation of a people. That focus gave him power no critic could shake loose. Do you see it? Focus is not just clarity, it is the fire that burns through resistance, the spear that pierces chaos. Without it, you will scatter your strength across 1,000 trivial pursuits. With it, you will channel everything into one inevitable result. So let me ask you, how much of your life is diluted by distraction? How much energy do you waste on scrolling, comparing, second-guessing, chasing things that don't matter? How many projects have you started that never finished? How many dreams have you abandoned halfway because your attention was divided? The truth is this: most men don't lose because they lack talent. They lose because they lack focus. They chase too many things. They entertain too many voices. They scatter their attention like confetti and wonder why their results are dust. But the man who works smart eliminates. He narrows. He refuses to live as a generalist when his purpose demands he become a specialist. He does not chase every possibility. He builds one certainty. Here is the law. Energy that is divided is wasted. Energy that is focused is multiplied. So what must you do? First, choose your mission. One sentence, one target, one direction. Until you write this down, your life will drift. Second, eliminate distractions. Anything that does not bend toward your purpose must be comfort, entertainment, toxic voices, unnecessary commitments. They are thieves of focus, and thieves of focus are thieves of destiny. Third, create an environment of focus. This is smart work. Remove clutter, remove options. Surround yourself only with tools, reminders, and people that align with your aim. Your environment must reinforce your focus until it becomes impossible to drift. Fourth, rehearse focus daily. Train your mind like a muscle. If it wanders, bring it back. If it drifts, realign. If it scatters, tighten. This is not weakness, it is practice. Because focus is not a gift, it is a discipline, and the man who trains it becomes unstoppable. Say it aloud now. I do not scatter my energy. I do not waste my time. I focus on what matters. I cut what does not. My life bends toward one mission, and I walk it with clarity. Because once you live this truth, you stop chasing and start building. You stop drifting and start advancing. You stop scattering and start piercing through every obstacle. Look again at history. The men who changed the world were not the busiest. They were the most focused. Their clarity gave them direction. Their direction gave them discipline. Their discipline gave them results. Most men confuse activity with achievement. They fill their days with motion, with noise, with endless tasks that dilute their strength. And at the end of their lives, they wonder why nothing permanent was built. But the man who focuses, he builds legacies. He may do fewer things, but those things last. He may speak fewer words, but those words echo. He may pursue fewer paths, but those paths transform nations. This is the fifth shift. Don't just work, focus. Don't just scatter, concentrate. Don't just chase, commit. Say it again, slowly, with power. I am focused. I am clear. I am unshakable. I work smart by channeling all of me into what matters most. And once you believe this, you will not be moved by distraction. You will not be seduced by every shiny thing. You will not dilute your power. You will walk like a laser, straight, precise, unrelenting. Because the truth is this: the world does not reward the man who tries everything. It rewards the man who finishes something. And focus is the bridge from trying to finishing, from dreaming to building, from hard work to smart work. Hard work keeps you moving. Smart work keeps you evolving. And evolution requires innovation. Because the truth is this: if you only do what has always been done, you will only get what has always been gotten. And in a world that is constantly changing, the man who refuses to innovate will not just stand still. He will fall behind. Most men cling to tradition like a life raft. They copy what others did yesterday. They repeat the patterns they were taught. They labor inside systems designed for someone else's gain. They believe effort alone will save them, while the world shifts beneath their feet. But the builders, the pioneers, the men who changed history, they did not copy, they created. They did not conform, they challenged. They did not just work hard within the old system, they built smarter systems that redefined the game. Henry Ford did not invent the car that had already been done. His innovation was the assembly line. He asked, how can we build faster, cheaper, better? And his answer collapsed production time from days into hours. That single innovation revolutionized not only the automobile industry, but manufacturing itself. That is smart work. Thomas Edison was not the first man to chase light, but he was the first to systemize invention itself. He built a laboratory where innovation was not random inspiration, but daily process. He surrounded himself with thinkers, created experiments in parallel, and refined ideas until breakthroughs became inevitable. His genius was not just invention, it was the innovation of how invention was done. Andrew Carnegie did not simply build steel plants. He innovated management, distribution, and cost control. He applied creative systems to eliminate waste and maximize efficiency, outsmarting competitors who still relied on brute labor. His steel empire was not built on harder work, but on smarter innovation. And look at Abraham Lincoln. His genius was not only political courage, but rhetorical innovation. He communicated complex principles with clarity, so sharp, so simple, that entire nations shifted. His Gettysburg Address was not long, but it was crafted with precision that carried power across centuries. That is the innovation of language, of influence. Do you see the pattern? Smart work is not just efficiency, it is creativity. It is the refusal to accept this is how it's done as the final answer. It is the constant search for a better way. So let me ask you, where in your life are you trapped by old patterns? Where are you repeating what no longer works? Where are you hiding inside tradition instead of creating innovation? Because understand this, the man who only repeats becomes replaceable. The man who innovates becomes irreplaceable. Hard work without innovation builds fatigue. Smart work with innovation builds future. Innovation does not mean recklessness. It means questioning. It means observing what others accept and asking why. It means refusing to stay stuck in old ruts when new possibilities are calling. So how do you practice innovation? First, question assumption. Every rule you follow, ask if it serves your purpose or if it only serves habit. Second, seek alternatives. If one path is blocked, don't bang your head against it. Ask, what's another route? Edison found 10,000 materials that didn't work because he refused to stop looking for what would. Third, combine disciplines. Innovation often lives where two fields collide. Ford studied not just cars but industrial processes. Carnegie learned not just steel but economics. Innovation thrives at intersections. Fourth, adopt experimentation. Smart men test, they measure, they refine. They don't just think, they try. They don't just dream, they prototype. They don't just hope, they test, until reality bends to their vision. Say it now: I am not bound by tradition. I am an innovator. I find better ways. I adapt. I evolve. I create solutions that outlast effort. Because once you take on this identity, you stop being a follower. You stop being a copy. You stop being one more man grinding inside someone else's blueprint. You become the designer, the creator, the one who redefines what is possible. Remember this. Rockefeller built oil pipelines when everyone else hauled barrels. Carnegie streamlined steel production when others were drowning in waste. Ford created the assembly line when others accepted chaos. Edison built laboratories when others worked alone in their basements. Innovation was not their side project, it was their standard. That is the smart way. That is how empires are born. And you, if you cling to what worked yesterday, you will be crushed by tomorrow. But if you innovate, if you adapt, if you question and create, you will not only survive change, you will command it. So let this truth sink in. Working hard may keep you afloat, but only innovation will let you soar. Say it again with force. I innovate, I adapt, I evolve. I do not repeat blindly. I find smarter ways, and I rise because of them. This is the sixth shift. Stop copying, start creating. Stop clinging to old tools, start building new ones. Stop working harder at yesterday's game, start working smarter at tomorrow's. Because the man who innovates will always outrun the man who imitates. Hard work moves your hands. Smart work moves other people's hands. And the bridge between the two is influence. Because no matter how strong, disciplined, or relentless you are, you cannot rise alone. At some point, you must multiply your vision through others. You must learn to lead, to persuade, to inspire, to align. That is the smart man's secret. Understand this: the man who cannot influence others will always remain limited to his own effort. But the man who can move people, he multiplies his reach without multiplying his labor. His voice becomes leverage. His presence becomes a force. Look at history. The men who bent the world were not always the strongest, but they were the most persuasive. Andrew Carnegie did not know more about steel than every engineer in his factories, but he knew how to inspire men, how to communicate vision, how to make others believe in the empire he was building. His influence was so magnetic that entire teams bent their talent toward his dream. That is not just leadership, that is smart work. Charles Schwab, Carnegie's protege, became president of US Steel, not because he was the most technical, but because he was the most influential. He had what others called a pleasing personality. He could move people without force, motivate without shouting, create loyalty without fear. That influence elevated him above men with more raw skill. Abraham Lincoln was not the loudest voice in politics, but his clarity of speech carried more weight than armies. In 27:22 words at Gettysburg, he reframed the meaning of the war, reshaped the nation's vision, and sealed his legacy forever. That is influence. Through communication. Even Thomas Edison, surrounded by brilliant inventors, succeeded not only through experimentation, but through persuasion. He convinced investors, rallied teams, and presented ideas with such conviction that the world followed his vision before the results were visible. Do you see it? Influence is not manipulation. It is multiplication. It is the ability to turn belief into alignment, alignment into action, and action into results that outlive your single effort. So let me ask you, how powerful is your voice? When you speak, do others listen? When you move, do others follow? When you share your vision, does it ignite belief or does it vanish into silence? Because here's the truth. If you cannot communicate, you will forever be trapped in isolation. You will forever be limited to what your own hands can build. But if you master influence, you unlock armies of aligned minds. Working hard means doing everything yourself. Working smart means building others into your system of success. So how do you build influence? First, clarity. Speak your vision in simple, powerful terms. If you cannot explain it clearly, you cannot lead anyone into it. Second, conviction. Speak with authority, not hesitation. People follow certainty, not doubt. Even if you don't yet see the outcome, act as though it is inevitable. Your belief will transfer. Third, presence. Your energy communicates before your words. Calm confidence inspires trust. Chaotic energy repels it. Discipline your posture, your tone, your silence. Let them all radiate certainty. Fourth, service. True influence is not domination, it is elevation. When people feel stronger, clearer, more capable in your presence, they will align with you willingly. Say it now. My voice has weight, my presence has power. I influence with clarity, conviction, and certainty. I do not argue. I align. I do not manipulate. I multiply. Because once you live this truth, you stop trying to drag the world by brute force. You start moving it with the gravity of your presence. You stop begging for approval and start radiating authority. You stop exhausting yourself with solo labor and start multiplying your vision through others. Remember, Rockefeller built pipelines, but he also built alliances. Carnegie forged steel, but he also forged loyalty. Lincoln led armies, but he also led hearts. Schwab commanded not through fear, but through inspiration. Edison carried not just inventions, but people who believed in his inventions. That is the hidden law of smart work. Influence is leverage, and let me be clear, without it, even the hardest worker will hit a ceiling, but with it, even the smallest man can rise to unimaginable heights. So stop thinking your success depends only on your sweat. Start realizing it depends on your ability to multiply through influence. Say it again with force. I am a man of influence. I speak with clarity. I move with authority. I multiply my vision through others. My presence carries power. This is the seventh shift. Don't just work, communicate. Don't just push, persuade. Don't just grind, align. Because the man who works hard may move one stone at a time, but the man of influence moves mountains, because he moves the men who move the stones. Hard work fills time. Smart work bends time. Most men treat time like an endless resource, and so they waste it. They believe working longer proves their worth. They boast about late nights, early mornings, endless hustle. But let me tell you a truth that most will never face. If you do not master time, time will master you, because time is the one resource you cannot replenish. Money can be lost and regained. Energy can be spent and restored, but every hour wasted is gone forever. The difference between men who grind and men who rise is this: one spends time, the other invests it. Look at the builders of history. Benjamin Franklin, long before wealth or fame, designed his life around time mastery. He broke his days into structured blocks: study, work, reflection, exercise. His time was not random. It was engineered. That system multiplied his output until the world could not ignore him. Andrew Carnegie understood time as leverage. He did not waste hours micromanaging details. He hired men sharper in each area and used his hours only for the decisions that mattered most. While other men spent their lives drowning in small tasks, Carnegie bent his time toward empire building. Henry Ford revolutionized not only production, but time itself. The assembly line collapsed months into days, days into hours. He didn't just save his own time, he saved the time of every man in his factories, and that compression multiplied his wealth beyond imagination. Thomas Edison treated time as a weapon. He didn't sit idle waiting for inspiration. He worked in cycles, experiments, processes. Every minute was captured into learning. Even his failures wasted no time, because each one was documented and repurposed. He didn't lose years repeating mistakes. He used time as a compounding library. Abraham Lincoln, under the crushing weight of war, mastered time through focus. He cut away trivialities. He spoke briefly, wrote clearly, acted decisively. He knew every wasted word was a wasted hour, and every wasted hour cost life. His time management was not about efficiency. It was about survival. Do you see it? Smart work is not about finding more hours. It is about making the hours you have worth more. So let me ask you, how many of your hours are wasted in distraction? How many days have you filled with busyness instead of progress? How many weeks have slipped through your fingers because you did not command your time with authority? The truth is this: most men are not defeated by lack of opportunity. They are defeated by lack of schedule. They live reactively, pulled by every demand, scattered by every distraction, drifting with no compass. But the man who masters time becomes unshakable. He decides what matters. He assigns his hours, like an architect lays stone, deliberate, exact, permanent. His calendar becomes his weapon. His schedule becomes his shield. His time bends to his will, not the other way around. Here is the law: control your time, or it will control you. So how do you work smart with time? First, prioritize by impact. Not all tasks are equal. Some move you inches, some move you miles. Smart men eliminate the trivial and attack the vital. Second, structure your days. Do not drift. Do not wing it. Define your morning. Command your afternoon. Close your night. Repeat it until your time moves like a machine. Third, eliminate every distraction, every wasted scroll, every unnecessary meeting is not harmless. It is theft. Time thieves must be cut ruthlessly. Fourth, compound your hours. Use tools, delegation, and systems to make each hour echo beyond itself. Write once, use many times. Build once, profit many times. Record once, teach many times. Compounding time is the essence of leverage. Say it aloud: I do not waste time. I command time. I structure my days. I prioritize what matters. My time bends to my purpose, and I multiply every hour. Because once you embody this, you stop living in reaction. You stop being enslaved by the clock. You stop letting trivial demands hijack your destiny. Think about this. Every man gets 24 hours, but not every man extracts the same value. One man spends them, another invests them. One wastes them on noise, another multiplies them into legacies. Franklin invested his into self-education and invention. Carnegie invested his into strategy. Ford invested his into systemization. Edison invested his into experimentation. Lincoln invested his into principle. Their wealth, their influence, their power, none of it came from having more hours. It came from multiplying the same hours you and I have. This is the 8th shift. Stop filling time. Start mastering time. Stop being a victim of hours. Start bending hours into weapons. Stop drifting in reaction. Start living with precision. Say it again with fire: I master my time. I am not distracted. I am not reactive. I prioritize what matters. I build legacies with the same hours others waste. Because the truth is this: the man who only works hard will always run out of time, but the man who works smart will always have enough time, because he refuses to waste it. Hard work burns energy. Smart work multiplies it, because here is a truth most men ignore until it's too late. Success is not built only on hours worked, but on energy sustained. You can have the sharpest strategy, the best systems, the clearest focus, but if your body collapses, if your mind is fogged, if your spirit is drained, your empire will crumble from within. Energy is the hidden currency of achievement, and the man who manages it wisely will always outperform the man who wastes it recklessly. Think of it like this: a machine that runs at maximum speed without pause burns out quickly. A fire that consumes itself without control dies into ashes. But a system that balances intensity with recovery lasts, grows, multiplies. The same law governs your life. Look at history. Thomas Edison worked relentlessly, but he also understood cycles. He did not simply grind endlessly. He alternated between bursts of experimentation and moments of rest. He used catnaps to recharge, long walks to clear his mind, and solitude to reset his creativity. His results came not from non-stop exhaustion, but from the rhythm of exertion and recovery. Henry Ford demanded discipline, but he also innovated work schedules. He shortened the work week, introduced structured hours, and discovered that men produced more when they were not endlessly drained. He understood that recovery fueled productivity. Andrew Carnegie invested in his health with as much seriousness as he invested in steel. He retreated to Scotland, took breaks for reflection, recharged his spirit, and returned sharper than his competitors who never paused. That is smart work, protecting energy to extend longevity. Even Abraham Lincoln, under the crushing weight of war, carved space for reflection, for humor, for walks. He knew that if his spirit collapsed, his leadership would collapse with it. Protecting his energy protected the Union itself. Do you see the law? Energy is not infinite. It must be managed, guarded, and renewed. Smart work is not about squeezing every drop of energy until you collapse. It is about structuring your life so energy is preserved, multiplied, and directed only where it matters. So let me ask you, how much of your energy is wasted daily? How much is bled away through worry, distraction, poor habits, lack of rest? How many times have you pushed harder when you should have paused, burned out when you should have rebuilt? The truth is this: most men do not fail from lack of opportunity. They fail from lack of energy. They drain themselves chasing everything, and when the true opportunity comes, they are too exhausted to seize it. Working hard ignores energy. Working smart protects it. So how do you protect and multiply your energy? First, your body. Fuel it with discipline, not indulgence. Exercise is not optional. It is the engine of focus. Nutrition is not entertainment. It is fuel. Sleep is not weakness. It is repair. Second, your mind. Guard it from noise. Cut gossip, endless scrolling, toxic voices. Feed it with clarity, with knowledge, with repetition of empowering beliefs. Your mind is a battery. It charges with what you consume. Third, your emotions. Protect them from chaos. Do not entertain constant drama. Do not waste energy arguing with doubters. Do not carry grudges that drain you silently. Direct your emotions toward vision, not vanity. Fourth, your spirit. Purpose itself is energy. A man with no mission wakes tired even after sleep. A man with a clear mission wakes charged even in struggle. Align your life with your purpose, and you will unlock reserves of energy others cannot touch. Say it aloud: I protect my energy, I renew my energy, I direct my energy. My body, my mind, my emotions, my spirit are aligned with my purpose. I do not burn out, I multiply. Because once you live this truth, you stop treating exhaustion as proof of progress. You stop wearing burnout as a badge of honor. You stop chasing hustle at the cost of health. Instead, you rise with calm power, with controlled intensity, with a presence that sustains itself year after year. Look again at the men of history. The ones who lasted, who built legacies, were not the ones who destroyed themselves in blind grind. They were the ones who managed their energy like treasure. Edison cycled work with rest. Ford restructured labor. Carnegie withdrew to renew. Lincoln recharged through reflection. They were not weaker because they rested. They were stronger because they recovered. This is the ninth shift. Stop wasting energy. Stop burning out. Stop believing collapse is a requirement. Start protecting, multiplying, and directing your energy like the priceless resource it is. Say it again slower, with certainty. My energy is my currency. I spend it wisely. I renew it daily. I direct it only where it multiplies. I am not a slave to exhaustion. I am a master of energy. Because the man who only works hard will always collapse, but the man who works smart will rise longer, last longer, and build legacies that endure because he understood this law. The game is not won by those who burn out fastest, but by those who sustain the longest. What you have heard across these chapters was not casual advice. It was a complete transformation, a dismantling of the old lie that working harder is the path to greatness, and the installation of a new law: work smart, and you will rise. You have seen it again and again. History does not celebrate the men who sweated the most. It celebrates the men who used their minds, their focus, their systems, their influence, their innovation. The men who bent time, protected energy, multiplied their results, and carried their vision through others. So now the question is not whether this works. The evidence is undeniable. The question is, will you live it? Because here is the truth. The man who clings to hard work only clings to chains. He sacrifices years to exhaustion, decades to distraction, and dies with little more than fatigue. But the man who shifts, who decides to build with intelligence, who refuses to waste his time, his energy, his focus, he becomes unshakable. He becomes inevitable. He becomes the builder of legacies. Let's integrate the law. First, shift, assumption. Stop believing struggle equals virtue. Stop assuming exhaustion equals progress. Your life bends to your assumptions. Assume efficiency. Assume leverage. Assume smart work is your new identity. Second shift, leverage. One man with leverage will always outrun 1,000 with sweat. Use tools, people, systems. Multiply yourself, or remain enslaved to your own effort. Third shift, decision. Indecision is wasted life. Decide once, decide clearly, and move forward with finality. Strategy beats stamina. The world bends to men who decide. Fourth shift, systems. Don't repeat what can be automated. Don't fight battles daily that can be won once with structure. Build pipelines, not buckets. Build processes, not repetition. Fifth shift, focus. Scatter destroys, focus builds. Choose one mission, eliminate distraction. Channel all energy into one inevitable outcome. Sixth shift, innovation. Stop copying. Stop clinging to yesterday's rules. Ask better questions. Create better solutions. Innovation is the sharpest form of smart work. Seventh shift, influence. Hard work moves your hands. Smart work moves other people's hands. Build presence, clarity, persuasion. Multiply your vision through others. Eighth shift, time. Do not fill time. Command it. Prioritize what matters. Eliminate leaks. Structure your days. Multiply hours through compounding action. Ninth shift, energy. Protect it like treasure. Guard your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit. Recovery is not weakness. It is strategy. Sustained energy builds legacies. And now the 10th shift, integration. Stop living like 10 separate lessons. Start living as one integrated identity. Because working smart is not a tactic, it is a way of being. It is the decision that every move you make, every hour you spend, every word you speak must be leveraged, focused, multiplied. It is the refusal to trade sweat for scraps when you can trade intelligence for empires. So let me ask you, who will you be after this? The man who still glorifies grind, the man who still mistakes fatigue for progress, the man who still works like a mule when he was born to be a builder, or the man who rises above, the man who works not harder, but smart, the man who uses leverage, systems, focus, influence, innovation, time, and energy, like weapons forged for his mission. Say it now: I do not worship hard work for its own sake. I worship results. I do not scatter. I focus. I do not repeat. I systemize. I do not copy. I innovate. I do not waste time. I command it. I do not burn out. I renew. I do not move alone. I multiply through others. I work smart. I live smart. I rise smart. This is not motivation. This is installation, the new operating system of your life. From this moment forward,
Stop measuring yourself by hours. Stop boasting about exhaustion. Stop comparing fatigue. Begin measuring yourself by impact, by efficiency, by leverage, by clarity, by results that outlast you. Because the man who works hard may be respected, but the man who works smart will be remembered. So write the line, draw it today. No more grind without gain. No more struggle without strategy. No more labor without leverage. This is your reset, your new identity, your new law. Say it once more with spine tall, chest forward, voice steady. I work smart. I command my time. I protect my energy. I multiply my results. I innovate. I influence. I systemize. I focus. I am no longer trapped in grind. I am the architect of my life. And now, walk it out, because the world is waiting not for another tired man who worked himself to death, but for a smart man who built something that will outlive him. This is the end of the message, but it is the beginning of your legacy.